The forest whispered with the secrets of old. That day, David had ventured deeper than he ever had before. The weight of his hiking gear pressed heavily on his back, but the thrill of exploration kept him moving. He hadn't meant to wander this far. The trail had disappeared hours ago, leaving him to navigate by instinct and the occasional sunbeam breaking through the canopy. He was a man who sought solace in nature, and the forest usually provided just that. But today felt different. The air was thick, not with humidity, but with an electric energy that prickled his skin. By mid-afternoon, he stumbled upon a cave hidden behind a curtain of moss and vines. The opening gaped like the maw of some ancient beast. He hesitated, his heartbeat quickening. There was something about it, a pull he couldn't resist, as though the cave itself beckoned him to enter. "Just a quick look," he muttered, more to himself than to the forest around him. He clicked on his flashlight and stepped inside. The temperature dropped immediately, the cool air wrapping around him like a damp blanket. The cave walls shimmered faintly, as if coated with some kind of bioluminescent material. The deeper he went, the stranger it became. Stalactites and stalagmites twisted into unnatural shapes, almost like frozen flames. The ground beneath his boots was oddly smooth, as though polished by unseen hands. He kept walking, drawn further in by a faint hum that seemed to emanate from the very rock. Then he saw it, a swirling vortex of light and shadow at the far end of the cavern. It wasn't like anything he'd ever seen. Colors he couldn't name danced in hypnotic patterns, and the hum grew louder, resonating deep within his chest. Logic screamed at him to turn back, but curiosity overpowered fear. He reached out a hand, and as his fingers brushed the edge of the vortex, the world dissolved into chaos. David woke to blinding sunlight and the sound of waves crashing against rock. Disoriented, he sat up and shielded his eyes. He was on a beach, the ocean stretching out before him in a vibrant blue he'd never seen. Behind him, towering cliffs loomed, and the cave entrance was gone. His backpack was still with him, but his phone and compass were useless. The strangest thing, though, was the air. It felt cleaner, lighter, as if the world itself had been renewed. He wandered along the shore, trying to piece together what had happened. Hours passed, and the sun dipped low on the horizon. Just as panic began to set in, he spotted a small settlement in the distance. It wasn't like any town he'd ever seen. The buildings were sleek, their surfaces shimmering like liquid metal. Vehicles glided silently through the streets, and people moved with an ease that seemed almost choreographed. He approached cautiously, unsure of how he would be received. As he stepped into the town, a holographic display materialized before him. "Welcome to Oceania District, year 2273, it announced in a soothing, automated voice. David's knees nearly buckled. He couldn't process it. How could he have traveled over 2 centuries into the future? He felt like a relic, a misplaced artifact in a world that had evolved far beyond his comprehension. A woman approached him, her expression a mixture of curiosity and concern. She wore a sleek, form-fitting outfit that seemed to ripple with energy. "Are you lost?" she asked, her voice gentle but firm. David struggled to find the words. I think so. I don't know how I got here." She studied him for a moment, then motioned for him to follow. "Come with me. You'll need help adjusting." Her name was Lyra, and she explained as much as she could. The world had changed drastically. Climate disasters and technological revolutions had reshaped humanity. Most people lived in self-sustaining cities like this one, connected by networks that spanned the globe. When David mentioned the cave, Lyra's expression turned serious. "You're not the first to arrive this way," she admitted. "But it's rare. Very rare." She took him to a facility where his presence was documented. Scanners analyzed him, and his story was corroborated by the strange energy residue clinging to him. They called it a temporal anomaly. Specialists were fascinated, but David's only concern was finding a way back, or at least finding a sense of purpose in this unfamiliar world. Days turned into weeks, and David slowly adapted. Lyra became his guide, helping him navigate both the technology and the culture of this new era. But it wasn't until a chance encounter at a public archive that his world truly shifted. He was scanning through holographic records when he saw her. It was just a name at first, Evelyn Brooks. But then her image appeared, and his heart stopped. It was his wife, unchanged except for the spark of life in her eyes that time had failed to dim. According to the records, she was alive and well, living in another district. David's mind raced. How was this possible? Evelyn had died years before he entered the cave. Yet here she was, vibrant and thriving in this impossible future. The records didn't provide much detail, but it was enough to locate her. Lyra hesitated when he told her. "Are you sure it's the same person?" she asked. "I'd know her anywhere," he said with conviction. The journey to her district was surreal. Advanced transport whisked him across landscapes that felt like they belonged in a dream. When he arrived, his heart pounded with anticipation and dread. He found her in a serene park, sitting beneath a tree that glowed softly in the twilight. She looked up as he approached, her expression shifting from confusion to recognition. "David," she whispered, her voice trembling. He dropped to his knees before her, overwhelmed. "Evelyn, how are you here?" Tears streamed down her face as she reached for his hand. "I could ask you the same thing." Their reunion defied explanation, but they didn't need one. For now, it was enough that they had found each other. They spent hours talking, sharing their stories, and piecing together the puzzle of their lives. Evelyn explained that she had experienced her own anomaly decades ago, waking up in this future with no way to return. She had built a life here, but she had never stopped mourning him. David and Evelyn's love rekindled, burning brighter than ever in the strange new world they inhabited. Together, they faced the challenges of their displaced existence, finding solace in the one thing that remained constant: each other. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in centuries, they felt truly alive.